Welcome and thank you for joining us for our second half hour of The Factor Uncensored. This next story may be shocking and disturbing to some. Newly released body camera video shows a Seattle police officer laughing about a 26-year-old woman being killed. That woman was hit by another officer driving a squad car in January. The other officer, who you will soon hear on video and accused of being insensitive, has been identified as Daniel Otterer.
But she is dead. Yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Wow. Seattle's police department has not commented on that value, but released it out of the interest of transparency. The Office of Public Accountability is investigating. Joining us now to discuss this is Constable Herschel Smith from Waller County. Glad to have you here on The Factor Uncensored. They didn't have to release this. Why do you think they released this video?
Simply because, you know, once it got out, they realized that they was going to be suffering with a whole lot of things.
So put it out there first.
Yeah, put it out there first. Let the people talk about it. After the people talk about it, then they come out and then they have another statement that would try to justify some of the things that happened. But at the same time, the guy was not sensitive at all to what had happened. You know, and anytime you see an officer laughing and making fun of someone that just have gotten killed, it's a tragedy, you know.
And of course, we need to put this in perspective. Her death had just happened that same day, and he was talking about it on the radio and laughing about it. Now, we know there are a lot of professions where you see a lot and you become insensitive. And for some people, they make jokes in order to deal with it. You don't think that was the case here?
No, that was not the case there, because, you know, just listen to that. You know, it didn't sound like he had any conviction. You know, the old saying is not what goes in that defiles, but what comes out. You know, and the way he expressed it, you know, it didn't sound like he had a conscience or conviction about what actually happened. You know, then he come back later and said she wasn't worth nothing. You know,
put a dollar value on it.
Right, put a dollar value on it. Let's just write a check and just get rid of it, you know.
And so when you have an officer like that on the force, and you as an elected official, you as an individual who hires law enforcement officers, what concerns would you have about him being out in the field if he is laughing about someone's death that just happened and basically called her worthless, meaningless?
Well, you know, anytime you're not sensitive to a situation like that, as an officer, you're going to lose the community. When the community realizes who you are and you continually have a behavior like that in front of the community, you're going to lose them. And, you know, we can't continue to have officers not being proactive in the community, because once you're proactive, you win in the community. We don't need to lose the community. We need to draw them to us, and they have trust and believe in us. Situation like that hurt us more than help us.
And if he behaves like that, how do you think, what would be your assessment, or how do you think he would behave with people on the streets? A lack of compassion?
A lack of compassion, definitely a lack of compassion.
Lack of temperament?
Of course, but I'd be afraid to keep someone like that on my agency, you know, because at the same time, as an elected official, you know, he damaged everything we stand for, you know. And so when you keep somebody on like that, it's a domino effect.
Now, is this something that you, as a law enforcement officer and agency, can weed out in the hiring process with a psychological evaluation, catch something like this, or only time will tell if you have a law enforcement officer like this on your in your department?
You won't catch it right away. It's just a period of time and watching the behavior of the individual, the pattern that he continually bring to the table. And once he does that, you know, you begin to understand this person is not going to fit in the agency.
So they're investigating this, Constable. Is this in your book a fireable offense, or would he need to go back for like some psychological evaluation, some counseling, some sensitivity courses? What? How would you handle a deputy like this on your force?
I wouldn't keep him. I'd be afraid of the future of the individual, the future of what he would do down the road, you know. So I wouldn't keep that individual.
Do you think we will see individuals like this who will be able to retain their jobs because there's such a shortage, and we just talked about this at the beginning of the show, there's such a shortage of law enforcement officers around this country?
It depends on his whole track record. You got to look at the overall track record of the individual. And once you do that, then you can determine what that individual going to bring to the table and what that individual taking off the table.
But Constable, you say you ain't that damn desperate.
Right.
Constable Herschel Smith, thank you for joining us from Fort Bend County. Always good to see you. Precinct 3, glad to have you here.